Hi, welcome to Jess Checks Out. I am Jess, and we're going to check out a tag this time, and not necessarily a book. So, I'm going to talk about the anti-TBR tag, and I have seen many people do this tag recently, and I've been putting it off because, well, filming is a whole thing. When you have ADHD, I keep mentioning that in the videos, but it's true, when you have ADHD, it can be somewhat of an interesting prospect on some days. So, I'm going to talk about what my answers to these questions are. I will have all that information in the description box below, as well as Nicole and her books on BookTube who created this tag. And I'm going to include Ray Reed's because I really enjoyed her answers on this as well. So, the first question is, a popular book everyone loves that you have no interest in reading. I have several. Because I have no interest in The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I've read the content warnings, I've seen what it's about. I briefly thought about it and I was like, nah, next, no thanks. It's one of those books that the content warnings tell me enough. I don't really need a lot of stuff, but I need some stuff sometimes. Also, if you see my hand moving, it's because on my windowsill, I have this great space to put the mouse, and so I keep rolling it because my script is literally right in here. Right there, so it can be somewhat of a problem. Okay, now some more books I have no interest in is Jennifer L. Armentrout, and that has more to do with Jenny Trout than it has to do with Armentrout. It put a bad taste in my mouth. I'm gonna put it that way. It came out when Jenny talked about it. Maybe it was in July or June. I'll see if I can find the links to it, but she talked about it on Twitter, and I was like, okay, I hadn't started it. I thought maybe I may at some point, but not my jam. And then I also have no interest in Milla Vane's, like, what is it? Blood and Ash? Is that it? Because Armentrout and Milla Vane have got such similar titles in their books. I'm not really sure who does what, but Milla Vane, I didn't really have any interest in the world building that I've heard so many people talk about. I've seen, books like Whoa, Mara, and Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany talk about it, and I don't really think it's my jam. It doesn't really interest me, and I've heard other people talk about it, and I love romance, do not get me wrong. Again, I have an entire podcast called about it, but I don't really have any interest in these particular writers. And everyone on BookTube is kind of talking about them now, and I'm just not really my thing. And then the next question, number 2, is a classic book or author you have no interest in reading. That's a loaded question because I don't like most classics. I don't really have a lot of interest in them. I was an English major, oddly enough, but I was interdisciplinary, so I was also doing different classes, kind of connecting it back to that topic. And so my interdisciplinary idea was actually talking about women throughout history, which included literature and stuff like that. And I found that a lot of the classic books did not have the best portrayal of women, so I didn't really have an interest in them. I have absolutely zero interest in reading Tom Hardy. Ever. No thank you. I read Jude the Obscure. That was enough punishment for one person. I watched the movie with Christopher Eccleston. I love Christopher Eccleston. I like Kate Winslet. That was a very depressing movie. It was definitely not the movie for me, and it wasn't the book for me, and it's just not my thing. I'm gonna probably get some comments about this, but I don't like Jane Austen. I know, so many people do, but I really don't like Jane Austen. I read Pride and Prejudice several times. It's not my style of writing. Oddly enough, I read some Regency romances. I didn't like how she wrote. It doesn't appeal to me. It's not one that I care about. It's just not my thing. I may read one of hers because I have several on Libro FM that were free that I may listen to, but it's not like a priority list. It's I've run out of things to read. Well, I have this one already downloaded, so I might as well have it because I'm in the middle of a commute or whatever. But in general, not really a high feeling, and I really don't like Russian literature. 80s Russian literature in any case. Like, I loathed Anna Karenina the same reason I loathed, Madame Bovary and Effie Briest, which kind of rolled together because I read them in different classes for different purposes. But anyway, I didn't have any kind of affinity for that. And then, so when I was reading Ariadne by Jennifer Saint, I was like, okay, well, I should see what else has been written about the name, because the name obviously has to have some kind of meaning, because it's not a very common name in general, and in the West, I should say in the West. I read Ariadne by Anton Chekhov, yeah, and that one was painful. That one was really painful, guys. I couldn't do that one. So I'm not really here for that particular, not that particular era and that particular, like, writing style. Again, I didn't like Madame Bovary and I didn't like Effie Briest either. Which one was French and one was German, one was Russian. I don't like a lot of classic books. It's not my jam. And I read for pleasure, not for punishment. Okay. Number 3 is a problematic author whose books you have no interest in reading. Oh my god, there's so many of those. Like, Jess Owens has opened my eyes, we'll say. But I think her book community is great. But I think the probably one that I won't ever read again is J.K. Rowling. And to be fair, I had decided this when I was trying to read book 6 when it first came out. And I admit I missed a lot of the stuff before that because I was literally reading for pleasure. I wasn't trying to, like, go deep into the text. But by book 6, I was like, the girls have turned into airheads and mean. And I have no interest. So I stopped, like, less than 100 pages into that book. And I'd already made my decision at that point. But then when, you know, the information about her being trans exclusionary and her being not so open to what she considers to be lesser, and her contributing funds and putting money forth, I have no interest in reading anything else she has to say. I have no interest in finishing out the series. I loved the series for quite a while, and I used to write fan fiction for it. I mean, I wrote a lot of crack fiction for it, which, if you don't know about fan fiction, that means I wrote, like, really, like, off the wall. Like, I wrote one about, like, you know, wizarding elementary, like, a kindergarten, basically. So there were things I did, but I can't support it. And, you know, Jessie from Books and Bowties has got a list about Owl Crate, which started out with a Harry Potter theme to it. They've been kind of in a bit of a mess there, and I'll link that below. But her, looking back, you can see a lot of the problematic elements, and it's not even just the trans rights, which is just phenomenally unnecessary and cruel, but also the racism, the ableism, the portrayal of, you know, Asian characters, the lack of characters of color in general, the very, like, white middle classness. You know, there are so many things that take people out, like, that can read it because they can't really relate to it in a way that makes sense. And so I get some people love J.K. Rowling. I get that. Like, if you do, that's your decision. But for me, I can't read her anymore, and I can't really support her. And, you know, I mentioned her in the Amari review, and I only mentioned it because some of the systems remind me so much of what I had read previously. But it was only in that instance. It wasn't as a way to promote it, and I purposely did not talk about her in length about that. That was done on purpose. I actually debated on whether I should talk about it, but it was such a clear signal for me, I couldn't really ignore it as a reader. So there was that. But I try not to do that. And then number 4 is an author you have read a couple of books from and have decided their books are not for you. This actually goes back to Jess Owens a little bit. Sorry, I'm a little bit itchy. It's been kind of weird weather here in Germany lately. It's been hot, cold, so things are blooming, not blooming, blooming, not blooming. Penny agrees. But so I think that probably one author that doesn't really work for me is K.M. Jackson. Her books are just not really something that hits my point. I've tried to read several of them. I've DNF'd them. I was missing something in them, and I I wasn't connecting with the characters. And if I can't connect with the character, I don't really care to do the thing, to read. That's it, to do the thing, to read. To do the thing. But I have no interest in reading it if I can't connect with the characters, because that's how I read. And so that's what I focus on as a reader. I focus on the character and how the structure helps the structure of the stories and everything works with the characters. And I couldn't find anything that I really got along with in her books, which was sad. A genre you have no interest in, or genre you've tried and couldn't get into. Well, there's two. So I can't really get into Christian fiction. I have tried. It's not something I can handle, because there's a lot of saviorism in it, and I can't handle that. And I've read several before. I've read one several years ago from Bethany House, which is a whole nother romance-landia conversation to have. I can't do it. I also read several before that and since then, and I ripped apart A Love Inspired last Christmas on Deconstructing Damsels with my husband when we were reading it, because it was so problematic, is not a good word for this. It was offensive, to be honest, and so I had like a long rant about it. It was a very interesting Christmas episode to be ranting about a book. I can't do it. It's not my thing. I also cannot read horror, but that has nothing to do with no interest, or it's just I can't really read that because of how I read. I see the scenes, and sometimes horror is very gore centric, and it can be very difficult for me to read. So if I do read it, I have to make sure that it's more thriller, less horror, like more like less, something you would see like from Saw. Like, I can't do those levels, but I can do the other kind of things. So we'll see about that. I've tried to read like a little bit of everything, and I'm not really sure how much I like thrillers yet, but we're going to see how that goes. Okay, so the next question is a book you bought but will never read. That one was an easy question. So I bought In a Rebel's Arms by Barbara Faith. It's an older, like 1980s Harlequin, and I chose to not read it, and I chose not to put it back in circulation, because it's about rebels in the South. The rebels, if you don't know, are the Confederacy. I have no desire for a romanticization of the Confederacy. I am from Georgia. I am from Atlanta. I have no interest in talking about traitors. I have no interest in talking about traitors that were really all for slavery. So I won't read it. It's in my house. It will never leave my house. There's a couple of those, like the Love Inspired book, that I don't want to put back out, because I don't want them to get rotated, especially here in Germany, where like there's a huge selling market of English books here, and so I don't want those to go in back into the system of someone else reading it thinking it's really good, because it's not. It ain't gonna happen, guys. The next one is interesting because it's a series that you have no interest in reading, or a series you've started and DNF'd it. So I haven't started it, but I have zero interest in reading Sarah J. Maas. And that is just because I've listened to multiple podcasts, reviews, all those items, and everything in between. I've, written reviews, Twitter reviews, you name it. I read the reviews, and nothing in that series makes me want to read it. And that tells me everything, because I like to read a bunch of different stuff, and I love fantasy, but I have no interest in her particular fantasy. And I have noticed a lot of sleight of hands to Anne Bishop's work, and even just the namings of some of the places and stuff like that, and so not really my thing. I know that everyone really seems to love her on BookTube and Bookstagram, but I'm not really willing to put in that much time in reading a book where I don't like the characters. And from everything I've heard from multiple sources putting them together, I know I would not like this series. So it's on my anti-TBR. I have no interest in Sarah J. Maas. And all the other things that she's been talking about, I'm going to say no to that as well. But specifically, just her writing style and what she says and does, I have no interest in that. Okay, and the last question is, a new release you have no interest in reading. So I put was it Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare in there? And I put it in there and I realized it was from 2020, so not necessarily a new release, but I mean, it came out during the panorama, so whatever. But I will say that I have no interest in reading Cassandra Clare in general. She's just, I've read City of Bones. I read it when it first came out, and I could hit all the highlights of what was not hers and what she had borrowed so distinctly. So I could definitely see where all that was, and I had no interest in reading more than that. I knew about Cassandra Clare as Cassie Clare because I was in Harry Potter at the time, and I mean, I posted on sites that were made for her fic. So, like, not for her fic, but it was created because of other things going on. Anyway, so I know about Cassie Clare, but I had no interest in it. But I tried to read her book to see what it was like, because you never know. People can grow all the time. I read City of Bones. I said, nope, nope, nope. I still get comments on my old Goodreads account from back then, and I still say, nope, nope, nope. It's been, God, what, 13 years? 14, something like that. So I don't have interest in her. And I mention her because I also have no interest in reading, like, anything by Holly Black. So I have no interest in either one of those. My tastes just do not lean that way. I actually don't know a lot of new releases. I just see things when they come through my Amazon. Either Amazon Kindle, my Kindle Unlimited subscription, or Amazon, oh look, there's a really good sale. I will say that I also don't have any interest in reading whatever Katie Roberts has to put out either. Dark romance is not my jam. Like, it's, I guess I should put that in the one above, but I cannot read it. I have so many issues with it. And so, you know, that's promoted a lot on my Damsels, my Deconstructing Damsels podcast, Twitter, and so I see those kind of things more often, but I just don't have interest in those particular story styles or readers or anything like that. So those are my answers to my anti-TBR. And I guess you could say I don't have any interest in reading whatever Armand Trout's book came out last was as well. So, tell me what your answers are in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Do you agree or disagree about any of these answers? Or do you think I have the right idea? Oh, maybe. Alright, so just hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell, and I should probably do that on camera. Subscribe, hit the like button, and the bell button so you know when I update, and I will see you guys next time. Have a good day. Like, go enjoy the day doing whatever you feel like doing. I don't know. Go sing a song on a walk to the mailbox. I don't know. Go just do something fun. Bye, guys.